Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Connections for Life, brought to you in part by UPSCO. I'm Ted Pete.
Chad Kuvo.
Joe Surratt.
We're the same
Chad,
people we are
Chad,
every single week.
I can't with you, man. Like
Maybe you should go second.
You're so concerned about getting it right that you sit I want everybody to rewind and watch this. You sit completely still for like 7 seconds. Like you don't move. Like
Chad Kuvo.
And I'm Chad Kuvo.
Oh shoot!
And then I'm so proud of myself when I'm done though.
Unbelievable.
All right, Joe, give us an UPSCO update.
Well, this week we decided in lieu of the UPSCO update or bringing on a employee profile, we were going to, but when we ran the video length, it was like 40 some odd minutes, and we figured that was a little bit too long for everybody to listen to us. So we're just going to basically go right into Chip McElroy with McElroy Manufacturing this week. We figured kind of Chip is a really kind of special guest and has a lot of cool things to say, and we didn't want to dominate Chip's time with other stuff or have people watch the front half and not the back half. So we're just going to kind of skip right to Chip this week. His interview is a little bit long, but I think you guys will find it beneficial and impactful. And cool. We were so happy to have him. We'd love to have him again. As you will see, there's about 40 more stories that are going to go after the story. So we're excited to have him. But whatever your two names are.
Chad. I'll be Chad.
His is written on there today.
Mine is still Jumanji Joe. I just noticed that.
So what's funnier was Guido and I got into a meeting today, and his was still Bane.
Oh, it's still Bane. That's funny.
So that's great.
From our interview last week.
Yes.
So
without further ado, I'll get us going here. So with Chip being on the show, we thought it also might be a great idea to introduce and let everyone know that we have a couple special promotions going on at UPSCO right now. One of them being a McElroy trade-in program. So contact your local McElroy rep for whatever geographical part of the country that you're in. You can find that information on our website.
Or you could just call UPSCO all the time, every time.
There you go. And then we also have a McElroy certified McElroy inspection program that we are rolling out. We just did some major inspections across one of the states of our territory. So they're pretty great stuff. But without further ado, let's get to Chip McElroy. Hello, Chip. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us on Connections for Life, my friend.
Hey, Chip.
Hey, Chip.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Thanks for coming on. It's definitely going to be a fun time and a privilege to have you on here. So I guess I'll start out with my questions. I know McElroy is a family-run business, and you've been around for a long time, and it's many generations of family. Could you just tell us a little bit about the history of McElroy and then what you guys do?
Absolutely. We count our founding in March of 1954. So last year was our 65th anniversary. Wow. The company was started literally in our garage by my mom and dad. Dad was both my parents were products of the Great Depression. My dad came back from World War II, wound up working for a very mercurial gentleman in Tulsa, who in the early 1950s looked at my dad and said, Art, you're not going to be happy working for me the rest of your life. You need to go start your own business. I'll help you if you need it. Just don't go in competition with me. And so from that conversation, they started with literally a sheet metal shear and an apron brake, which we still have today in their garage. I didn't come along until a little bit later. The bigger irony is, we're best known today for the machines that we build that are used throughout the underground construction world, gas industry being the one that brought us to the dance. And our machines weld together both the medium density and the high density polyethylene pipes, as well as some other thermoplastic pipes today. And we handle pipe and tubing sizes from 1/2-inch diameter to, as you see in my background, the Talon, which is a 2-meter machine, 78.5 inches in diameter. We're based in Tulsa. My sisters and I represent the generation in the business, and we've pretty much been running the business since our dad passed away in 1988. And we have some of the third generation that is involved with the business today.
Wow. That's awesome.
I know I'm supposed to ask another question here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to ask a different question. I want to know, just real quickly, that story. What was the first product that mom and dad were making? Like, what was the product that launched?
That is a great question, Joe. I like that.
Well, you know, honestly, we were a job shop up through probably the mid '60s.
Really?
Yeah, there was my dad tried a lot of different things. He was always thinking, always inventing in his head, sketching things out. We did odds and ends. We did maintenance repair work for American Airlines, which has their largest maintenance base in Tulsa. We worked for other small manufacturers in Tulsa doing odds and ends. But it was really customers that he had cultivated while he worked for Joe Coy post-World War II that came back to my dad because they knew he had a reputation for innovation and solving really unique problems. And so the first product that we really developed was our fin tube machine, which is still a significant part of our business today. And that was in about 1963, 64. Then in about 1969, so last year was our 50th year of fusing pipe. There were two old refinery engineers that my dad had built relationships with in the 50s that at that point in time were working with this high density resin that Phillips had called Marlex. And their problem was the equipment that was in the field would not put this high density polyethylene together. And so in 1969, they pretty much encouraged my dad to build the equipment so that they could sell the pipe.
Wow. No kidding. Well, I know one other main thing with McElroy, and I'll just speak for the masses here. When I'm driving around and I see pipe ain't laying anywhere and you see a green machine out there, you know it's a McElroy machine.
Yep.
Thankfully.
Much like I've always said, like John Deere, you know, green is your brand, right? Everybody knows that that's McElroy. Well, I guess where did that come from and what was that synonymous with and how did you become known as the McElroy Green Machine?
So the story that I know the best is that sometime in the 1960s, actually, if you go back in our archives, the very first machines were painted orange, which was kind of, believe it or not, the color that American Airlines wanted a lot of their hardware. But very quickly onward, my dad kind of decided safety green was what he wanted to pattern it after. And ironically, at the time, our company colors were blue and white. Really, once the equipment hit the marketplace, they've been green. You know, we have a saying within McElroy both about our own employees as well as people like UPSCO that represent us, that what really sets us apart from the competition is the people that are associated with our business, the people that are associated with our equipment, the people who go out, sell, support, rent, and service our equipment bleed green. You know, they look at the problem and go, I've got to get a McElroy to do that job. And it is a feeling and a reality,
a good feeling, right?
That we don't take for granted. It's truly a blessing.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, wow, that's just what a history. What a story.
I know there's like a million questions more I have, and now we can spin off. But we'll stick with the program. Schedule the program.
It's what an amazing story. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, and definitely as you've seen this industry change and it goes through all these things that it has done, what is the biggest change you've probably seen in the past 20 years or so?
Wow. You know,
this show, right?
Well, obviously, you know, the biggest change, you know, and not to be too cliche, but this whole COVID crisis that we've been living with for the last 2 to 3 months, I think in time will be seen as bringing about more disruption and more change to our industry than we've ever seen previous. And I don't mean that in any sort of a light way or anything like that. But I would say the biggest thing that's happened in the industry in the last 10 to 20 years has been the fracking revolution, the horizontal well drilling revolution in energy. And just a little bit of history, I definitely focused on gas distribution. Gas comes from, well, it comes from exploration and production of hydrocarbons out of the ground.
I thought it all came from dinosaurs.
2000s. That's right, dinosaurs. Up until the early 2000s, your basically production in the field was done with vertical wells and produced water, and the components that came up out of the ground wound up in tanks. And then basically haulers would come and unload those tanks. With the horizontal well drilling and the fracking revolution, the amount of produced water and the amount of hydrocarbons that come out of these wells are so massive from anything that the industry's known before that they've had to build infrastructure for them. And in our case, they've had to build infrastructure for the produced water, which is 80 to 90% of the flow that comes out of any well. And so beginning in the Barnett Shale back in 2005, 2007 timeframe, it was not uncommon to see 8 and 10-inch pipe being built over tens of thousands of feet to gather up this produced water, as well as to gather up the produced hydrocarbons. By the time the oil boom hit in the early 2010s, we were looking at 12 to 16-inch pipe. And if we look at the oil boom that's been going on up until this year, it's been 16, 18, 24, and even 32-inch pipe for that produced water. So it has changed the dynamics of pipe extrusion. It has changed the dynamics of how construction has done in the field. And I would argue it has really added to the bona fides that high density and medium density polyethylene offer in a lot of other varied infrastructure agents.
Well, that's a kind of led me right into my next point. I mean, we kind of talked about you're talking about the gathering and the transmission and all that of natural gas. But polyethylene pipe has also had a big change for infrastructure for, obviously residential and American lives.
Right.
I guess, how have you seen that change in your time in the industry since, prior to polyethylene into where we are today?
So it's a really great observation. I can't claim credit for this fact. I think I heard it at an AGA conference probably 30 years ago.
We're claiming a credit.
Okay.
You're 100% credit for you right now, right here.
But it is said that were it not for polyethylene pipe, there would have been no economic reason to pipe natural gas to homes and small businesses across the United States. That the utility companies could not get their return on investment and provide a low-cost product to their customer, talking about residences and small businesses, if they had to build a steel infrastructure. And so it was really polyethylene that allowed them to put in a system that did not need corrosion protection. It was resilient. It was tough. It was hard to screw up on the installation front. It was just a really great, low-cost, sealed system that led to a safe and cost-effective means of getting gas into homes and businesses.
Wow.
Sure, absolutely.
Wow.
Awesome
So if I can interject for a second, that just triggered something. Like the way you articulated that really leads me to think that, the creation, the innovation of polyethylene pipe and the medium density, the high density, and whatnot have now spurned an entire another industry.
Correct.
You see, and that's the wonders of innovation.
Right.
So man, like there wouldn't be a huge talent sitting behind you if polyethylene pipe hadn't turned into what it is. So
right.
That's crazy.
It's a pretty wild way to think about it.
Well, we always like to try to keep these relatively brief because we don't want to bore anybody with our presence. But Chado, I know you got one pretty cool last question.
Yeah.
I
was not the last one. We got another one after that.
Oh, okay.
Second to last. But this is the one I got to pick, and I wanted to ask. It was if you could wave a magic wand over our industry and change anything, what would it be?
Oh man. Well. So the holy grail for us at McElroy is that the potable water industry comes to realize, I don't want to say wakes up, but comes to realize what this thermoplastic infrastructure can mean for a water system that lasts twice as long as anything they've been doing today. It should always be the low-cost option going in. But it will always be the lowest lifetime cost option. So the holy grail for us is penetrating the potable water industry. the challenge we have is that the industry is heavily entrenched with ductile iron and PVC, which represent probably 80% of the market.
And it's a very old industry.
Absolutely
right?
amazing and antiquated and just
amazingly old.
It is. I spent years coating ductile iron pipe, putting coating on it for exactly the potable water industry. And plastic, man, that is a good magic wand, because it would change the industry essentially that way if they would accept it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I worked in the plastics industry with the PV side with the water people prior to coming to UPSCO. So it's like both two different, but it's the same. I get it. It's just that old mentality, and that's how it's going to be done.
And so, you know, to things that we need to learn as an industry, there are different construction techniques for building water systems than there are for building gas systems and stuff across the oil patch and running HVAC plumbing in the building. And we've been trying to educate ourselves on how our equipment and how our methodologies need to change. Obviously, the PE Alliance plays a huge role in getting that grassroots effort out there and telling the story. But the biggest challenge are the pipe guys. The pipe guys largely see themselves as a commodity. They, when times are good and everything's rolling in natural gas and rolling with the oil patch, they're too busy to be bothered with anything else. But then when you get to where we are today and we're sitting in a veritable depression in the oil and gas sector, they're kind of like, it would be nice to have some other business. And so we look at this municipality and say that it really is a win-win all the way around, but we've got to get the pipe companies to understand that they've got a value proposition that they need to be helping us in a bigger way.
Not just run to where the pounds are sold. I think that's
exactly
how it looks.
That's exactly right.
Wow, this has been great, Chip. It's been super informative. I have one question for you. So we call
I have
the
like
show
40. Like I feel like I have like 40 more questions.
We're gonna have to definitely have you back because we try to keep them. Chip McElroy Part 2. But I wanted to ask you about, we named the show Connections for Life. It's UPSCO's branding statement, but part of that really, and I got to see this personally firsthand this year with being down at DCA with you and out at the Con Expo in Vegas with you and stuff. The connections between UPSCO and McElroy, the deep running connection there, and how intertwined our two organizations are. Maybe could you just share a little bit about that? How did UPSCO and McElroy get together? What is the what's that look like from the McElroy side?
So we built our first fusion equipment in 1969. Between about 1969 and 1983, if you can believe that, we pretty much sold all of the equipment we made direct. It was such a bleeding edge product. It was such a new product system going into the marketplace that it was us and the pipe companies, whether it was Phillips, whether it was Plexco, whether it was Uponor, or it wasn't Uponor, it was DuPont at the time, and some other ones that no longer exist. We had to go out there as the manufacturer of the pipe, the manufacturer of the fittings, the manufacturer of the equipment, and sell the solution. And the market that brought us to this dance was natural gas distribution. That was the market that literally took up arms with polyethylene equipment in the early 70s. And the early 1980s, there were some manufacturers reps and some distributors that started knocking on our door. And the story goes that they would say, we keep seeing all this green equipment in the field, and we're wondering if it's something we can sell. And so I'm proud to say that Jim Bean and Bob and Newhart, along with the Grebners, along with Consolidated Pipe and Supply out of Birmingham, Alabama, a company out of Virginia, I believe by the name of Ballin G, and another guy named Industrial Sales out of Olathe, Kansas. Those guys represented the very first distributors we ever signed up. The very first time. We
got to clarify that Jim and Newhart were UPSCO.
That is UPSCO.
That
the
is
original
UPSCO.
owner.
Second generation owner.
Second generation. And when you interviewed Dan, he talked about the history before Newhart and Bean. And I never knew that story until Dan told it.
Really?
So Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So, you know,
and I'm sure there's a few that are going to know a lot more about McElroy because of this.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
This is really cool stuff.
So anyway, you know, UPSCO was there really when we began our foray into selling product through distribution. And I would say we wouldn't be where we are today were it not for UPSCO. I mean, the work that you guys have done in the Northeast and New England is absolutely extraordinary. And we wish we could bottle it up and release it in other parts of the country as well.
So do we.
Yeah. They'd be happy with us if we did.
Well, with all that being said, Chip, like we said, man, like I have like 500 more questions about your original, how the company started and things like that. We'd love
definitely going to be a part 2
another time.
Cool.
But we just want to say thanks. You know, as Ted kind of alluded to in the connections, we know that you and your organization, your people have really strong connections and ties to our organization. And we're really happy to have you come on. Very fortunate that that you were so excited to come on and wanted to be, and were willing to come on. And we feel very blessed because of that. So I guess with all that being said, we just want to say stay safe. We're still kind of dealing with the COVID thing, but hopefully soon we'll be out here and rubbing elbows somewhere else, and we can have some more conversations. So thanks again. We look forward to it.
Thanks again.
Happy to be here. Thank you guys so much.
All right, talk to you guys. Wow, Chip. I mean, what a great interview. I think we could have kept going forever. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2 to Chip. You guys?
Yeah. Obviously, like I kind of joked with Dan when we brought Chip on. I said it's kind of cool being able to talk to people that normally wouldn't have talked to me. So like, you know, doing this show has just been really cool. You know, I don't mean that. I just mean Chip's like, he's just such a busy guy and just an important cog in the whole natural gas wheel, you know, him and his company. And
it's really amazing.
We're very fortunate to be able to
I don't know if they're cogs. I think McElroy could qualify as like the engine of the car, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just definitely a special company, and we have a fortunate, a fortunate relationship to be able to work side by side by a company, which is, I mean, we kind of call them like the Apple of the gas world, right? Like
for real,
from a technology standpoint and the new products and the innovation, the R&D that they do. So just a phenomenal company, top to bottom. Happy to have Chip on. Like you said, Ted will. I could have probably listened to. We were kind of like this when he was talking.
Yeah.
Like we could have watched him for probably another 4 hours because I mean, just the stories and the history and all that stuff is just really, really cool and special. We don't get to always hear that, even when we work with these people every day. So to have that personal aspect of it, I thought was great. So I think another hour at Chip would be awesome. Come down the line if we could actually get him to schedule that. But that's all I had. Again, Chip, thank you so much. Great talking with you. Great to get to know you a little bit better.
Chad?
Let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could say it any better than Joe, honestly. Chip was
just, all right, next.
Just special. He was super special. It was just
recording.
It was another interview, kind of like we have when we had Dan on, and we know that's really special to us. And it was just Dan, but it's special just in the natural gas industry in whole. It's special to be able to have that guy on here and to talk to us, and us to be able to ask those questions that maybe people wouldn't hear on just a daily basis. That's the coolest part to me. And he was super genuine, down the earth, and just an awesome guy to talk to and an awesome storyteller, which makes it that much better all the time, every time.
He even took a whole bunch of our resin before we started recording the interview. He took it really, really well.
He did.
But I don't think that everybody that watches this completely understands that prior to, and I think James talked about it in the other show, prior to taping any of this, we spend about 15 minutes just really picking on the person that we're going to be talking
about. For the most part, it really is.
And just kind of like goofing around just to get everybody a little bit more comfortable, you know?
Opened up, really laughing, joking.
Yeah, it's just hard to hop on. But, I mean, shit was awesome. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah,
definitely. I think it was definitely fun.
All right, in lieu of time, we're going to now transition over to our industry update that we're coming kind of staples with. So, Chad, why don't you go first? What do you got for us?
We talked about the gas measurement short course going bye-bye last week, unfortunately. But I didn't have a whole lot this week, but I wanted to mention, and I shared it on Facebook too. But I'm trying to set up some virtual travel weeks with our principals, and also with Joe, just taking a couple days here and there to try and have meetings like we would if we were on the road. So not sure how it'll look exactly, but I'm really looking forward to doing it and just trying to something creative. So that's kind of my little own industry update.
All right. What about you, Joe?
I have just one real one that I thought was really cool. There's a webinar series that's going on from SGA, and I don't think I talked about it before. It's called Natural Gas Champions webinar series. And I think it's a 3-day deal-ish or 2-day. And it does actually get you professional development credits. So if you're looking for,
Your PE stuff, yeah.
Right, yeah. So it's got the opportunity to give you that as well. But it's really cool because it basically starts at the very top. And if you go through, it talks about like, the beginning of natural gas. It just kind of runs down through every kind of individual facet, safety training. A lot of good stuff, I think, for really new people. But I plan on taking it because I think there's just something always you can learn. So I think it's $300 for the 2 days or 3 days.
Not bad.
For members, and I think it's like $500 for non-members.
Still not bad compared to some of the things we've seen coming out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'll post the link underneath, like we always do. So if anybody wants to hop on, so that was the first thing. The second thing I had was, just 2 personal things that I have. The first one being a good friend of mine, somebody I consider a friend, and actually a show subscriber that I didn't realize. Mr. Doug Stafford from NYSEG is going to be retiring at the end of this week. Okay, so I've known Doug for almost as long as I've been at UPSCO. He's an awesome guy. He's just been just a true kind of friend to us, and just an all-around good guy. And he reached out to Ted and myself just to give us a kind of thank you for everything, and also a pat on the back for our YouTube episodes, and said
which is scary.
Yes,
people are watching.
He just said that you guys are providing some interesting information. It's entertaining, and he was just like, yeah, listen, it's an awesome thing, and it was cool to hear that from a peer and somebody that I respect. Ted, I know that you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
The only message that he shared was that Ted needs to take down that blipping jersey hanging on the wall. So so anyways, and the last thing I have was I got a text, honestly, from this morning from an old colleague at UPSCO, and I'm not going to use the name, but he'll know who I'm talking about. A friend of mine and somebody that I was very close with, during his time at UPSCO for the years that he was there. So several of us were, and he had watched our videos on LinkedIn, and his message was that he shared the exact same fond memory of UPSCO about our trips to Subway, and he actually said it was kind of a good walk down memory lane, and it made him feel a little bit emotional, but it was definitely
awesome.
He said it was one of his favorite memories professionally.
Look at our impacts, Joe. Look at our impacts.
So no, I just wanted to say those couple of things.
Awesome.
It's just cool to start to get some feedback after 8 or 9 episodes from people.
I have no idea how many episodes we've done.
This one will be 10. The only reason I know is because I edit all of them.
You do that.
Or don't edit.
Yeah.
So all I want to say is, for all of you that aren't commenting, Doug made a thing and said, I've always wanted to comment, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Please do. Don't not. We love to get that feedback. I mean, just to get that little message, it kind of fuels us and keeps
it touched the heart
going. It keeps you wanting to do this. I think the struggle is, I think Jim or James had talked about it. Maybe it was before and not when we taped, was the momentum, right? Like, you start off like a ball of fire, and you get to like episode 7, and you're like, okay, now you.
And I've always said we got to get through that hump. We got to get over that hump, that tough one where it gets tough to do it, just because you've done it so many times.
But your comments and your feedback and
100%
is something that really fuels us and keeps us motivated and moving forward. So just for everybody, Doug, I love you, man. I'm sorry that you're going. I wish you were going to stay. Yeah. I know you're going to have an awesome time up on the hill there. But you need to just keep watching our shows, and don't forget about us. We're not retiring yet. We got a few more years left. So.
Yeah, that's great, Joe. I'll transition over with that. First with Doug. Doug was one of the first guys in the industry that I got introduced to. I met him out at an NGA event, and then Doug and Joe and I ended up, when Joe and I were traveling, Joe was showing me some of the ropes, ended up meeting for lunch, and we just, man, what a great guy. What a guy to really, he helped keep me going. You know what I mean? He helped keep me in tune and and plugged in and going, hey, Ted, you know, we need this and we need that, and educated me on what it was. So I can't thank him enough. I sent him an email back, Joe, and said, you know, I'll let that jersey comment be your parting shot. Happy retirement, brother.
Yeah, right.
That's a good one.
We want to wrap it up real quick. I got one thing. McElroy, since we had Chip on today and Gene's our McElroy expert, every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Time, they conduct a virtual training series. And if you have
That's 10 a.m. for us, right? Or
no, you have no concept of time.
Right, just
11 a.m.
Just check it.
Stop talking,
please. Just
The
check the
other way.
internet.
I went the wrong way, didn't I?
You went the wrong way.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So with that said, though, they do that every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Good job, Ted.
Yes, I got it. Other than that, hey, great show. Comment, like, subscribe, give us some feedback. We really appreciate
Please
you guys.
do. Every
Until
time,
next
guys.
time. Have a good one.
See you soon.